So now the company is announcing earnings tomorrow that is noteworthy. HELE of Troy, ticker HELE, is announcing earnings before market open tomorrow, October 8, 2020. So in this video, we're going to break down the historic analysis and let you know a very interesting situation that is developing on the chart of HELE of Troy. So 13 market move formula, how to trade HELE earnings. So earnings history by quarter right here, guys. Wow, HELE of Troy is just a pretty much straight A student. Damn it, look at this. It beat every earnings quarter for the last quarters on this chart right here. It's a beat on revenue numbers. It's a beat on earnings per share. It just is a stellar performer right here. However, it did create a ton of opportunity on the short side. So you may be confused right now. How the hell? It beats on earnings. So apparently the stock just keeps moving higher and higher. You're saying there's a great short opportunity to make money on the drop here? How the hell is this possible? So let's dive in and take a look. So daily chart of HELE for 2019-2020. Let's take a look at the measure of the magnitude of the move. The stock has been able to produce some decent size moves, guys. That's why we're considering it for trading options. You definitely want to have a good size movement in the stock after it reports earnings. So in this particular case, we'll go back all the way to April 2019, 11.8% move. But it has had moves as low as 3.6 to 2.5% right here. So basically, the stock currently trades going into the earnings report right now is at 3:30 p.m. on October the 6th and some change, between 206 and 207. So the lowest size move historically we could possibly get is about $5-6, which would be a 2.5% estimate we actually had back in January of 2020. The large size move could be as much as 11%. 11% of this $206 stock could be as much as $22. Not bad, huh? Okay. If we go with the average of about 6%, guys, we're expecting a move of about $11, $12 in the stock. But the question is, understanding the history, how do you trade it? In which direction is this initial move is actually going to take place? Because in most cases, we don't recommend shorting the stock ahead of the earnings, but this could be the very one exception. I'm going to take you briefly to the slide while I'm showing you something that is not apparent. Look at the revenue numbers, okay? There's something brewing here in the making, where despite of the beat in the numbers, these sales are continuing to move lower over the last 3 quarters. So 474 down to 442, down to 420. And when we combine the historic analysis of the October, we could have a very incredible situation where the stock could actually gap down after 4 p.m. because it could be missing earnings for the very first time based on the trajectory that I have just displayed to you guys, besides some of the other patterns on this chart. Now, with that said, guys, if we focus right here, we're expecting to move about $10, $11. Historically speaking, the stock's got a high probability of actually gapping up before the sell-off. As you can see, in most of the instances, it gaps up, then it drops. It gaps up, and it drops. It gaps up, it drops. It gaps up, hesitates slightly lower, and it goes higher. So this is one exception. Gaps up, moves lower. So in most of the instances, it will initially gap up. So if you see the stock gapping up tomorrow, it's very easy within the first few hours to just go ahead and pull the trigger and short the stock because it will move lower. It does not necessarily entail that the stock will move lower into the negative territory, but it gives you a substantial pullback. Now, let's dive into the historical analysis here. July 9, 2020. This is the post-announcement. The stock gaps up higher, and then it sells off basically 5 days in a row. Not a bad move overall from 209 to 192. And this is currently sort of the formation that we're getting right now. The stock's still trading right about the same levels. And the fact that it hasn't broken out of those levels for such an overwhelming amount of time since the last earnings report actually makes the situation rather bearish. So if you take a look at exactly what happened that day is the stock initially gaps up higher all the way to the 209 level. But then by 10 a.m., the stock trades down to 192. So this was a beautiful trade right here, guys. Short the bounce, guys. It's a simple short the bounce type trade. Even the company bids on earnings, bids on every kind of number that you can possibly think about there. It gives great looking forward guidance and all that great stuff. But the stock tanks, okay? If we take a look at daily April 28th, 2020, similar situation, right? The stock gaps up, sells off. Every bounce in the stock, when we go back to April 27, 28, this is how it looks. It gaps up, drops, drops, drops. So guaranteed basically a solid drop between the time it opens almost till lunchtime. So those 3 hours, okay, gives you a high probability that the stock, despite of potential spikes intraday within those hours, is overall going to maintain a trend lower, creating the ultimate exit point for you at about 12 o'clock. So Helen of Troy, January 8th, similar type of condition. The stock pops and then it sells off for 2 days in a row. Helen of Troy, January 7th. This is how it looks. So it pops, drops, not without the bounces, right? It's not just like a straight sharp lower, but it moves lower throughout the day and finishes lower when it actually started. Helen of Troy, October 8, 2019. Now, October is when the stock historically actually makes the biggest size moves, and if initially it gaps up, okay, the trend of the next few days lower has a high probability to continue for at least 48 hours, guys. So very interesting situation because it resembles highly the conditions right now. Helen of Troy, October 7th, take a closer look. Basically opens higher. Second hour moves lower, third hour moves lower, fourth hour moves lower, and so on. Basically, your ideal exit point right here would be at 1 p.m. So it's important to acknowledge that you want to get in basically right at the market open. As you know, in certain instances, we recommend wait until about 10, 10:30, 10:45 in the morning to get in some of these trades. In this particular case, you want to just get in. And if you see the stock move slightly higher, you want to add to the position. You want to stair step, guys, because ultimately, in majority of the cases, it's going to do exactly this. But target your entry between 11 and 1 p.m. if you're shorting the bounce. Now, here's a bit of an exception to the rule where the stock does not do a whole lot. It still drops, but overall, predominantly moving sideways. Now, here's another example. July 8th, where the stock initially opens higher, 2 hours into the trading session, all the way till lunchtime, continues dropping, and then it's reversing. So looking at these chart, guys, gives you a very high probability of actually shorting the stock right at the market open, staying in the trade for about 2-3 hours, and then reversing the position to the upside. Now, be very careful because we think the stock could actually miss earnings. So it could be a whole opposite of all these scenarios. All these scenarios give you a high probability trade. But if there's any change, if there is an earnings, we can get quite the opposite of the reaction, especially if we get maybe comparable earnings. There's no growth in revenue. There's no anything positive in the forward-looking projections around here, guys. The stock will sell off. So there is a probability that for the first time in a long time, this thing could actually gap down. So keep this in mind. But in the situation of a gap down, guys, what you want to do is you actually want to wait for the bounce and short the hell out of this thing. So in either case, you want to catch the bounce. In the event of the initial gap up high, you want to catch that bounce right at the open and short it. As you can see, this is a very high probability trade. It moves higher, opens higher, moves lower for 2 days in a row. Okay, and to summarize this quickly, guys, because I'm trying to post this video before 4 p.m., so anybody that wants to look for the charts and take a trade, you'd be able to do so. So basically, Helen of Troy has consistently beat on earnings, EPS, top line revenue numbers, forward-looking projections, revenue guidance has always consistently been raised. With one exception, which was July 2019, and that's when the stock sold off based off the forward-looking projections. That's likely to be repeated this time. All attempted gap ups and the initial rise post-earnings were resulting in severe sell-offs, okay? Immediate sell-offs, literally from the opening moment to 11, 12, 1 p.m. All of these situations resolved into substantial move lower, giving you really lucrative trades from the standpoint of shorting the bounces and collecting profits literally within 2 to 4 hours after you get into these trades. Now, many times, okay, it is possible to swing trade or daily intraday trade for up to 5 days post-earnings release by shorting the tops. So average time to take profits between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m. As noted by the charts analysis, October represents the most bearish price action for Helen of Troy. And considering that it was not able to break out above the 209 level, that would be the level to watch post-earnings. So if it does get up tomorrow to 209, you want to short that level. If it drops down on an actual miss, you want to wait for a bounce and short this thing in either case. So October has the highest probability of continuation pattern. So for those of you that may have small account and you cannot accrue multiple day trades, you want to get in on the bounce. You want to stay with the trade anywhere from 48 to 96 hours because there's a high probability that the stock will continue moving in the lower direction. So with that said, if you still have any questions about this trade, guys, feel free to schedule a 20-minute free consultation call. Just click the link below this video or visit 13marketmoves.com for more information, guys. We gotta rock and roll and post this video for you. So I'll catch you on the next trade soon. Let's rock.